He kept bringing it up. Like, every damn Tuesday. You know, Declan, you're still young. Plenty of time to settle down. My neighbor. And his petunias, always so bright. I'd just nod. Yeah, Mr. Henderson. Or whatever his name was. I never remembered it. He had this way of standing, like a scarecrow that missed the memo. Then he'd lean in, spittle flying. My daughter, she's a lovely girl. Just finished her degree. It was always about his daughter. Always the implication that I was somehow missing out. That my life was incomplete without some woman clinging to my arm. This one Tuesday, I was trying to wrestle a stubborn hose into submission. It had a kink that defied all known physics. I was sweating, my knuckles were scraped raw, and he was there again. She's really good at baking, he droned. Makes a mean apple pie. I swear, the host just laughed at me. A metallic, high-pitched squeal. I threw it down. Mr. Henderson, I said, my voice a little strained. I appreciate the intel on the baked goods, but I'm not looking for a baker. Or a daughter. He blinked. Like I'd just spoken Elvish. I mean, I continued. My voice picking up speed, you keep offering up your daughter like she's some kind of prize. And honestly, it's getting a little paternal. He recoiled. Visibly. Like I'd splashed him with something foul. Paternal? He sputtered. I'm just trying to be a good neighbor. You know how it is. People think they're being helpful when they're just being meddlesome. Right, I said, picking up the hose again. And I'm just trying to water my marigolds without being set up on a date. So if you could just point your matchmaking efforts elsewhere? He stood there, mouth agape, for a solid minute. The petunias seemed to droop in sympathy. Then he turned. With the air of a man who'd just witnessed a cosmic injustice, and stalked back to his side of the fence. I actually managed to untangle the hose. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Anyway. He didn't bring it up for a few weeks. I thought maybe I'd finally scared him off. Then one afternoon, I was grilling some burgers. The smoke was thick, carrying the scent of char and something vaguely like regret. He was out there, raking leaves. I could hear the rhythmic scrape of the tines against the grass. He yelled over. Deck, heard you got that promotion. I paused, spatula in midair. Yeah, I did. That's great. You know, my son-in-law, he's in finance. Maybe he could give you some pointers. My left knee started bouncing and he couldn't stop it. This woman, the one who ran the non-profit I'd been volunteering with, she called me later that day. She was usually so calm, so composed. But her voice was tight. Declan, we have a situation. It turned out some guy I'd helped out years ago. Someone I'd completely forgotten about, someone who owed me a solid for a thing I barely recalled doing, had a connection. A very high connection. And this connection was looking for someone to head up a new initiative. Someone with vision. And a proven track record of getting things done, even when the hose was kinked. She said they'd already put my name forward. I hung up the phone and just stared at the wall. The paint was peeling near the ceiling. It looked like a faded map of a forgotten continent. I thought about Mr. Henderson and his daughter. I thought about the apple pie. And then I thought about the promotion I'd gotten. And the other thing. The thing that was now apparently in motion. It was Thursday. Or maybe Friday. I wasn't entirely sure. I walked over to the window. Outside, the sun was starting to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. It looked like a bruised peach. I went back to the grill. The burgers were still sizzling. I flipped one over. It hissed. That was it. Whatever. The drive home was always a decompression chamber. The hum of the tires on the asphalt, a low thrumming that vibrated through the seat and up my spine. I liked it. It was a predictable sound. Unlike, Mr. Henderson's unsolicited advice. I turned on the radio, flipping through the static-laced stations until I found something that wasn't talk radio or a commercial for a funeral home. Some generic rock station. Loud enough to drown out my own thoughts, but not so loud I couldn't hear the engine. The sun, when it peeked through the windshield, was a blinding white glare. I squinted, adjusting the visor. I needed to call the dentist. My molar was starting to ache again. A dull, persistent throb. I made a mental note to book an appointment. Probably next week. Or the week after. I pulled into my driveway, the gravel crunching under the tires. The house was quiet. Too quiet. It was the kind of quiet that felt like waiting. Like the air was holding its breath. I killed the engine, and the silence rushed in, thick and heavy. I sat there for a minute, just breathing. The smell of exhaust fumes mixed with the faint, sweet scent of cut grass from somewhere down the street. I thought about Mr. Henderson's petunias. Always so damn bright. Like he was trying to overcompensate for something. Or maybe he just really liked petunias. Who knew? I got out of the car. The air was cooler now, a slight breeze rustling the leaves on the oak tree in the front yard. I walked towards the back door, the screen door creaking as I opened it. The kitchen was dim, the afternoon sun only managing to filter through the grimy window above the sink. I dropped my keys on the counter. Clatter. Always a satisfying sound. I opened the fridge, the light casting a pale glow on the shelves. A half-eaten carton of yogurt. A bottle of hot sauce. Some wilting lettuce. Not exactly a culinary wonderland. I grabbed a bottle of water, the condensation cool against my hand. I went into the living room. The couch cushions were slightly askew, a testament to my recent solitary existence. I sank into it, the worn fabric familiar beneath me. I picked up the remote, flipping through channels again. Nothing. Just noise and flickering images. I turned it off. The silence returned, punctuated by the ticking of the cheap wall clock. Tick. Tock. Tick. Tock. It felt like time was a tangible thing, a heavy weight pressing down. I thought about my parents. They were always pushing for me to get married. To have kids. To, have a normal life. Whatever that was. They meant well, I guess. But their well-meaning always came with a side of passive aggression. Oh, Declan, you're so independent. It's lovely. But don't you ever get lonely? Like loneliness was a disease I was deliberately cultivating. I got up and walked to the back door again. The grill was still out there, a silent sentinel on the patio. I opened the door, and the smell of charcoal smoke, faint but persistent, wafted in. I remembered the burgers. I'd forgotten to take them off the grill. I went out there, the cool air a welcome change from the stuffy house. The burgers were a little charred, a little dry. But still edible. I salvaged what I could, piling them onto a plate. A solitary meal. I carried the plate inside, back to the kitchen. I sat down at the small table, the linoleum cool under my elbows. I ate the burgers, chewing slowly, the smoky flavor a welcome distraction. I didn't bother with any sides. Just the burgers. And the water. After dinner, I decided to tackle the garage. It was a disaster zone. Tools scattered everywhere. Old paint cans. Cardboard boxes filled with who knew what. I needed to organize. To create some semblance of order. I put on some music, something upbeat. I started by clearing a path to the workbench. Then I started sorting. Old screwdrivers. Wrenches. A rusty saw. I found a box of Christmas decorations from years ago. A tangle of lights. A chipped ornament. I threw them in a discard pile. It felt good, getting rid of things. Shedding the unnecessary. I was elbow deep in a box of old sporting equipment when my phone rang. It was Sarah, the nonprofit woman. I'd forgotten all about her. Declan, she said, her voice still tight, but with a hint of something I couldn't quite place. Excitement? It's about the initiative. They want to meet you. Tomorrow. Tomorrow. Just like that. My hand, still grimy from the garage, hovered over the phone. Tomorrow? I repeated. Where? Downtown. The Sterling Building. 10 a.m. sharp. I'll email you the details. Okay, I said, my voice a little flat. Thanks, Sarah. Don't thank me yet, Declan. Just be prepared. This is a big one. She hung up. I stood there, in the middle of the garage, surrounded by the detritus of my past. The music was still playing, but it felt distant, muffled. I looked at the discarded Christmas decorations. The chipped ornament. It all felt irrelevant. I walked back into the house, the smell of stale oil and dust clinging to me. I went to the sink and washed my hands, scrubbing them with soap until they were raw. The water was cold. I dried them on a dish towel, the rough fabric a small comfort. I looked in the mirror. My face was smudged. My eyes looked tired. I needed a shave. And a shower. I went upstairs, heading for the bathroom. I turned on the shower, the hot water steaming up the glass door. I stood under the spray, letting it wash over me, the heat seeping into my muscles. I closed my eyes, the sound of the water a steady rhythm. I thought about the Sterling Building. About the meeting. About the initiative. Vision. Proven track record. The hose kinked. It was all so unexpected. Like a rogue wave in a calm sea. I was toweling off when I heard it. A faint scratching sound from downstairs. My cat, Mittens. She was probably hungry. I went downstairs, Mittens weaving around my ankles as I walked to her food bowl. She purred, a low rumble in her chest. I filled her bowl, the dry kibble rattling. She dug in, her tail twitching. I watched her for a moment. Simple needs. Simple satisfaction. I went back to the living room. The room was still dim, the clock ticking its relentless rhythm. Tick. Tock. I picked up the remote again, and this time, I turned on the TV. A documentary about deep-sea creatures. Bioluminescent things, glowing in the inky blackness. Strange and beautiful. I watched for a while, mesmerized by their silent existence. They didn't worry about promotions. Or settling down. Or apple pie. They just were. Then, a thought hit me. I needed to call my mom. She'd be worried if she knew I was meeting someone from a big company. She always worried. About everything. I picked up my phone. It was late. She'd probably be asleep. I decided to wait until morning. I went to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water. The tap water tasted clean. Uncomplicated. I stood by the window, looking out at the dark yard. The moon was a sliver, barely visible. A few stars pricked the blackness. I thought about Mr. Henderson. He was probably asleep by now. Dreaming of his daughter's apple pies. Or maybe he was dreaming of petunias. I took a sip of water. It was good. Refreshing. I felt a strange sense of calm settle over me. The anxiety about the meeting was there, a low hum beneath the surface, but it was manageable. I had a promotion. I had a potential new job. I had Mittens. And I had a perfectly good hose, finally untangled. It wasn't a bad life. Not at all. I went upstairs, brushed my teeth. The toothpaste tasted minty. Clean. I got into bed, the sheets cool against my skin. I pulled the covers up. I closed my eyes. I didn't think about Mr. Henderson or his daughter. Or the apple pie. I just thought about the deep-sea creatures. Glowing in the dark. The next morning, I woke up with the sun. It was a bright, clear day. I made coffee, the rich aroma filling the kitchen. I checked my email. Sarah had sent the details for the meeting. Sterling Building. 10 a.m. I reread the email, then deleted it. I didn't need to see it again. I got dressed. A clean shirt. Jeans. Nothing fancy. I grabbed my keys. Mittens rubbed against my legs as I headed for the door. "See you later, girl," I said. She meowed in response. The drive to the Sterling Building was uneventful. The traffic was light. The sun was warm. I parked the car in the underground garage. The air was cool and smelled of concrete and something vaguely metallic. I took the elevator up to the 10th floor. The doors opened, and I stepped into a brightly lit reception area. A woman with a sleek haircut and an even sleeker smile greeted me. "Declan," she said, her voice smooth and practiced. "They've been expecting you. Please, have a seat." I sat on a plush sofa, my hands resting on my knees. I looked around the room. Everything was clean. Modern. Expensive. I felt a little out of place, but also ready. A few minutes later, a man emerged from a door behind the reception desk. He was older, with sharp eyes and a confident stride. "Declan," he said, extending his hand. "Robert Sterling. Welcome." We shook hands. His grip was firm. "Thank you for having me, Mr. Sterling. Please, call me Robert. Come this way." He led me into a conference room. A large, polished table dominated the space. Sunlight streamed in through the floor-to-ceiling windows, offering a panoramic view of the city. It was a lot. We sat down. The conversation started. It was about the initiative. About the vision. About the challenges. I answered their questions, my voice steady. I talked about getting things done. About overcoming obstacles. About the kinked toes. They seemed impressed. There were a few awkward pauses. Moments when I wasn't sure what to say. But then I'd remember the promotion. Or the thing that was now in motion. And the words would come. After about an hour, Robert stood up. "Declan," he said, a smile playing on his lips. "I think we've found our man. We'll be in touch." I walked out of the Sterling Building feeling different. Lighter. The sun felt warmer. The air smelled cleaner. I got into my car, started the engine. I didn't know where I was going. Not really. But I was going somewhere. The drive back was different from the drive home yesterday. It was more purposeful. I wasn't just decompressing. I was moving forward. I turned on the radio, but this time I didn't flip through the stations. I left it on. Some instrumental music. Something that felt like a soundtrack to a new beginning. I thought about Mr. Henderson. I wondered if he was out tending his petunias. Or if his daughter was baking another apple pie. I didn't have any ill will towards him. He was just a neighbor. A meddlesome neighbor, but a neighbor nonetheless. I pulled into my driveway. The house was still quiet. I got out of the car, the gravel crunching under my shoes. I unlocked the door, stepped inside. Mittens greeted me with a happy meow and a full-body rub. I bent down and scratched her behind the ears. "Hey, girl," I said. "Guess what?" She purred, her tail a question mark in the air. I walked into the living room. The clock was still ticking. Tick. Tock. It was still just a clock. But somehow, it felt different. The time it measured felt more valuable. I went to the window, looked out at the yard. The sun was starting to set. Painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. It looked like a bruised peach. I went back to the kitchen. The grill was still out there, a silent sentinel on the patio. The burgers were still sizzling. I flipped one over. It hissed. That was it. Whatever.